Two Apache sisters begged the rancher for shelter. His next words changed their fate forever. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the endless plains. The wind blew dry and warm across the tall grass, carrying the scent of dust and distant pine. In the middle of this wide, empty land, two young sisters, Ahioka and Nijoni, trudged along a narrow dirt trail. Their feet were sore, and their clothes were dusty and torn from weeks of traveling. Each step they took seemed heavier than the last, but neither dared stop. Behind them, danger and uncertainty loomed. Their village had been destroyed, and they had nowhere else to go. Ahioka, the elder of the two, carried a small bundle tied with a piece of cloth. Inside were a few precious belongings: a worn blanket, some dried corn, and a small carving of a wolf that their mother had given them before they left. She adjusted the bundle on her shoulder and glanced at her sister. Nijoni, younger by several years, tried to match Ahioka's pace but struggled. Her small hands clutched a wooden stick she used for balance. Her dark hair was tangled and dust-streaked, and her eyes, though tired, sparkled with fear and determination. "We have to keep moving," Ahioka whispered, her voice steady but quiet. "We can't stop until we find shelter." Nijoni nodded, swallowing hard. "Do you think we'll find anyone?" she asked. Her voice trembled. "People, will they help us?" Ahioka hesitated. She wanted to believe that someone would help, that there was kindness left in the world, but her heart knew the truth. Not everyone was welcoming to travelers, especially two girls alone in a land so full of strangers. Still, she forced a reassuring smile. "We'll find someone," she said firmly. "We have to."
"We don't have any other choice." The sisters walked on, the sun dipping lower and painting the sky with shades of orange and pink.
In the distance, a lone ranch came into view. Smoke curled gently from a chimney, and the sound of animals could be heard: the lowing of cows, the clucking of chickens, and the occasional neigh of a horse. It looked like a safe place, and hope flickered in their hearts. But with hope came fear. They didn't know who lived there, and they weren't sure if the people would see them as friends or threats. As they approached the ranch, the tall wooden fence became clearer. A wide gate opened to a yard where horses grazed, and the main house, built of sturdy timber, stood proudly in the warm evening light. Ahioka took a deep breath, glanced at Nijoni, and whispered, "Stay close to me. We'll ask for help, but we must be careful. Be polite, and don't scare them." Nijoni nodded again, gripping her sister's hand. Together they stepped through the gate, their footsteps soft on the dry earth. At the front of the house, an older man appeared on the porch. His face was weathered and tanned from years in the sun. Deep lines marked his forehead, and his eyes were sharp and watchful. He leaned on the railing, studying the sisters with a mixture of curiosity and caution.
"Hello?" Ahioka began, her voice trembling slightly but still clear.
"Sir, we need shelter. We have nowhere else to go." The man's eyes narrowed. He looked them over slowly, his gaze lingering on their dusty clothes and tired faces. "Who are you girls?" he asked, his voice firm but not unkind. "And why are you here alone?" Ahioka swallowed, steadying herself.
"My sister and I, we have no home."
"Our village, it was attacked, and we had to leave. Please, sir, we only ask for a place to rest and some food. We will work for it if we must." The rancher, whose name was Jameson, crossed his arms and leaned back against the railing. He studied them for a long moment, silent. His eyes flicked to the horizon as if searching for something beyond the girls, perhaps looking for signs of danger, perhaps looking for reasons to turn them away. Nijoni, sensing the tension, whispered softly, "Ahioka, maybe we should go." No, we can't. This is our only chance. She straightened her back and faced Jameson again. Please, sir. We are not trouble. We only want to live. Please. Jameson let out a slow sigh, the creaking of the porch boards echoing as he shifted his weight. He was a man who had spent decades on the plains, raising cattle, tending to the land, and surviving the harsh realities of the West. He had seen people come and go, some honest, some deceitful. He knew the world could be cruel, and he had learned to protect what he had. And yet, something about the sisters, perhaps their courage, perhaps their honesty, stirred a feeling he hadn't felt in years. Girls, he said slowly, it's dangerous for anyone to wander these plains alone, and it's even harder for young girls like you. But I don't know if I can just let you stay. People talk, and trouble follows. You understand that? Hahioka nodded quickly.
Yes, sir, we understand.
But we beg you, please, anything, even a corner to sleep, and we will not be a burden. Jameson scratched his chin, his eyes softening. He looked at Nijoni, whose small frame trembled slightly. Her hands were dirty and her shoes were worn thin, but there was something in her gaze, a mix of fear and hope, that reminded him of someone he once knew. He shifted his weight again and finally spoke. You can come inside, he said, his voice low but firm. But don't think this is a free ride. You'll work, you'll follow my rules, and you'll earn your keep. Do you understand? The sisters' faces lit up with relief and gratitude. Ayoka bowed her head slightly. Yes, sir?
Thank you. We will do whatever you ask.
Jameson stepped aside and motioned for them to enter. Come on, then. Let's get you cleaned up and fed. Then we'll talk more about what you can do here. Inside the house, the sisters were amazed at how different it was from the small homes they had known. The air smelled of bread and wood smoke, and a warm fire crackled in the hearth. Jameson led them to a small room with a few simple beds. It wasn't much, but to the sisters, it felt like heaven. For the first time in weeks, they felt safe. Nijoni looked around, wide-eyed. It's so warm. And there's food. Oh, Ahioka, she whispered. Ahioka smiled and hugged her sister tightly. We're safe. For now, she said softly. That night, as the sun disappeared completely behind the horizon and the stars began to twinkle in the clear sky, the sisters lay in their small beds. Their bodies were tired, but their minds were alive with hope. They had survived so much already, and now, thanks to Jameson's decision, they had a chance to start over. Outside, Jameson sat on the porch again, staring at the dark plains. He wasn't sure if he had made the right choice. The world was full of danger, and helping the sisters could bring trouble. But as he thought about the fear and determination in their eyes, he felt a spark of something he had almost forgotten. Compassion. Maybe, just maybe, he could make a difference. And so, under the vast, starry sky, a fragile trust was formed. The sisters had found shelter for the first time in weeks, and Jameson had taken the first step toward changing not just their fate, but perhaps his own as well. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the wide plains, painting the sky in shades of gold and pale pink. Ahioka awoke first, sitting on the edge of the small bed and stretching her tired arms. Nijoni was still asleep, her face peaceful and untroubled for the first time in many days. Ahioka watched her little sister for a moment, feeling a mixture of relief and worry. Relief that they were safe for now, and worry because she knew that safety would not last forever unless they proved themselves capable and trustworthy. Quietly, Ahioka slipped out of the room and into the small kitchen. The smell of bread and coffee filled the air. Jameson was already at the table, eating breakfast and reading a small leather-bound notebook. He looked up when he saw her. "Morning," he said gruffly but without harshness. "Sleep well." Ahioka nodded.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
"For letting us stay," Jameson grunted in acknowledgement. "Don't thank me yet. You've got a lot to prove before I can consider you part of this place." Ahioka swallowed, but kept her head high. "We will work hard. We promise." He studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "All right, I'll give you a chance. But listen carefully. This isn't going to be easy. There's no magic here." "You eat, you work, you follow the rules. That's all." Ahioka felt a surge of hope mixed with determination. "We understand, sir." Soon Nijoni joined them, rubbing her eyes and yawning. She looked around at the kitchen, the simple wooden table, the bowls of steaming porridge, and her eyes widened. "It smells so good," she said softly. "I haven't eaten like this in a long time." Ayaka smiled at her sister. "Then eat, Nijoni. We need our strength for what's ahead." They sat together, and for a while the sound of quiet eating filled the kitchen. Outside, the ranch was coming alive. Horses neighed, cows lowed in the distance, and the soft rustle of the wind through the tall grass made the world feel alive again. The sisters were safe, but Ahioka knew this safety was fragile. They would have to earn their place, prove themselves to Jameson, and show that they could contribute. After breakfast, Jameson led them outside. "First things first," he said. "I need you to get used to the land. There's a lot to do, and every day will be a test. You'll learn to ride, care for the animals, and help with the crops. Can you handle that?" Ahioka and Nizoni exchanged a glance. They had never lived on a ranch before, but they nodded. "We will try our best, sir," Ahioka said firmly. Jameson handed each of them a straw hat and a small pair of gloves. "Then let's start. Follow me." The morning sun beat down on them as they walked to the stables. Horses of different colors and sizes were lined up, some whinnying softly, others stamping their hooves. Jameson pointed to a gentle, brown mare. "This one will be yours to start with. Her name is Willow. She's calm, but you have to earn her trust. You approach her slowly, talk to her softly, and she'll follow you." Ahioka took a deep breath and stepped forward. Willow sniffed her hand, then nuzzled it gently. Ahioka smiled, whispering soothing words. Nijoni watched, her small hands gripping the edge of the stable door. She was nervous, but she could see the connection forming between her sister and the horse. After a few minutes, Jameson nodded. "Good. Now, both of you spend the morning learning the basics. I'll be around if you need help." The sisters worked hard. They learned how to brush the horses, feed them, and even mount Willow carefully. At first, Nijoni was scared, almost trembling as the mare's large body moved beneath her. But Ahioka stayed close, encouraging her. "You can do it, Nijoni. Just trust her and trust yourself." By noon, both girls were tired but proud. Jameson watched from a distance, impressed by their determination and courage. He didn't say much, but there was a small nod of approval in his eyes. After lunch, Jameson led them to the fields. The land was wide and open, with rows of crops stretching as far as the eye could see. "These fields need tending," he explained. "We plant, we water, we weed. It's hard work, but it keeps the ranch alive. You'll learn everything." Ahioka and Nijoni rolled up their sleeves and began their tasks. Their hands grew calloused, their arms ached, and sweat dripped down their faces, but neither complained. Every weed pulled and every seed planted was a small victory, a step toward proving they belonged. As the day went on, the sisters discovered more about the ranch. They fed chickens, gathered eggs, and even helped herd a small group of cows. They stumbled, made mistakes, and sometimes argued quietly over the best way to do something. But slowly they began to learn. Slowly they began to feel like they were part of something bigger than themselves. In the evening, after the work was done, Jameson called them to the porch. He handed each girl a cup of water and sat down in his chair. "You did well today," he said. "Better than I expected. You're learning fast, and that's what matters. But don't think it's over. Every day will be a test, and every day you have to prove yourself. Can you do that?" Ahioka nodded firmly. "Yes, sir, we can do it." Nijoni, still tired but proud, nodded as well. "Yes, sir." Jameson leaned back, looking at them with a thoughtful expression. "I've seen a lot in my life," he said slowly. "People come and go. Some are lazy. Some are selfish. Some are brave, even when they're scared. I think you two might be the last kind. I'll give you a chance, but remember this. Trust is earned, not given. You have to earn it every day." The sisters listened carefully, understanding the weight of his words. They had survived so much already, and now they had a chance not only to live, but to be accepted and respected. It was a challenge, but one they were willing to face. That night, after the chores were done, Ahioka and Nijoni sat outside their small room, looking at the stars. The sky was clear, and the stars shone like tiny lanterns in the darkness. Ahioka wrapped an arm around her sister's shoulders. "We did it today," she said softly. "We made it through our first day." Nijoni leaned against her sister, a small smile on her face. "I'm tired, but I'm happy." "We're safe, Ahioka. We really are." Ahioka nodded, looking at the dark horizon beyond the ranch. "Yes, for now, but we have to keep working, keep learning. We can't stop. We have to be ready for whatever comes next." The wind whispered through the tall grass, carrying the sounds of the ranch settling for the night. The horses moved in their stalls, the cows lay down in the fields, and the quiet hum of life surrounded them. For the first time in weeks, the sisters felt a sense of belonging, fragile but real. Jameson, on his porch, looked out at the girls and then at the land. He had seen hardship, he had seen fear, but he had also seen courage and determination. He didn't know what the future would bring, but he knew one thing. These two sisters had something most people didn't: heart. And sometimes, heart was all you needed to survive and thrive. And so, the sisters began their new life on the ranch. Each day brought new challenges, new lessons, and new victories. With each small success, they felt stronger, braver, and more hopeful. The journey ahead was long and full of uncertainty, but they had taken the first steps toward a new life, one filled with hard work, trust, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The days passed quickly on the ranch, each one filled with hard work, learning, and small victories. Ahioka and Nijoni had begun to settle into a routine. From early morning until the sun sank behind the hills, they worked alongside Jameson and the ranch hands. They fed the animals, watered the crops, and learned to handle tools and equipment. Every task, no matter how small, felt like a test, but each success brought pride and hope. One morning, Jameson called the sisters to the porch just as the first light of dawn touched the fields. Today, he said, his voice calm but serious, I'm going to show you something important. A ranch isn't just about animals and crops. It's about trust, responsibility, and respect. If you want to stay here, you have to understand that fully. Ahioka nodded. We understand, sir.
We are ready to learn. Najoni fidgeted slightly, but her eyes shone with determination.
Yes, sir, she echoed. Jameson led them to the back of the ranch where a small herd of cattle grazed.
He stopped near a wooden corral. These cows aren't just animals, he explained. They're part of this land. They depend on us, and we depend on them. You have to learn to read them, to understand their moods, and to guide them gently. Force won't work. Only patience and care will. Ahioka stepped forward first, studying the cows. She noticed how they moved together, how the younger calves stayed close to their mothers. She reached out slowly to one of the cows, speaking softly as she extended her hand. Najoni watched from behind her sister, hesitant but eager to try. You have to move slowly, Najoni, Ahioka said quietly.
Show them you mean no harm. Najoni nodded and took a careful step forward. She whispered to a small calf, reaching her hand out.
The calf sniffed her fingers and then pressed gently against her palm. Najoni's face lit up with delight. Jameson watched silently, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. He was not an easy man to impress, but he had to admit, these girls had courage, patience, and a natural way with animals. He cleared his throat and spoke. Good.
Very good. But remember, it's not just about handling animals.
It's about proving yourself worthy of this place. Every action matters. Every choice matters. If you respect the land, the animals, and the people here, you'll be respected in return. The sisters nodded solemnly. They felt the weight of his words, understanding that their journey wasn't just about survival. It was about earning trust, not only from Jameson, but from the land and all who depended on it. As the day went on, they continued their work with the animals. Ahioka guided the cows into the corral while Najoni helped feed the chickens and gather eggs. By afternoon, both girls were exhausted, their hands sore and their faces streaked with sweat and dust. But there was a sense of accomplishment in their tired bodies, a quiet satisfaction that made the hard work feel worth it. Jameson called them back to the porch as the sun began to lower in the sky. Sit, he said, pointing to the steps. He poured water into a small tin cup for each of them and handed them a piece of bread. You've done well today, he said, but I need to be honest with you. Living here isn't easy. Some people will judge you, some will doubt you, and some may try to take advantage. You have to be strong, patient, and smart. If you can do that, you'll find your place here. Ahioka took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of pride and resolve. We will, sir, she said firmly. We will do everything we can. Najoni nodded, her voice quiet but steady. Yes, sir, we won't give up. Jameson studied them for a long moment. Then, for the first time, he leaned back and spoke in a softer tone. You know, girls, most people who come to me like this, begging for help, I turn away. I've learned to protect what's mine. But you two, there's something different about you. I see bravery, I see honesty, I see heart. And heart, that's hard to find these days. Ahioka's chest swelled with hope. She felt the weight of his words settle over her, like a warm blanket after a long, cold journey. Najoni squeezed her sister's hand, her eyes shining with tears of gratitude. Jameson continued. I'm giving you a chance, not because I have to, but because I believe you can prove yourselves. You'll stay here, but you must earn it. You'll work, you'll learn, and you'll follow the rules. If you can do that, you'll be part of this ranch and part of my life. But remember, trust is fragile. One mistake and it can vanish. Ahioka nodded. We understand, sir. We will not disappoint you. The rest of the day passed in a mix of work and quiet reflection. The sisters found small moments of joy in their tasks. Nijoni laughed when a mischievous calf nipped gently at her skirt, and Ahioka smiled as Willow, her horse, nuzzled her shoulder affectionately. They were learning, adapting, and slowly becoming part of the rhythm of the ranch. As evening fell, Jameson called them to the barn. I want to teach you something important tonight, he said. It's about responsibility. Everything here depends on careful attention. If you neglect your duties, even for a moment, it can have consequences. Animals get hurt, crops fail, people lose trust. You must understand that everything you do matters. He showed them how to clean the stalls properly, how to check the animals for injuries, and how to notice small changes in behavior that could indicate illness or discomfort. Ahioka and Nijoni listened closely, absorbing every word. They asked questions, tried new techniques, and worked side by side, feeling a sense of pride in their growing knowledge. Later, as the stars began to appear in the clear night sky, Jameson led them outside. The air was cool and still, the sounds of the ranch settling down for the night filling the silence around them. You've done well today, he said, his voice quieter now. But tomorrow will be even harder. You'll face challenges you don't expect, and you'll have to prove your courage and patience all over again. Are you ready for that? Ahioka looked at her sister and then back at Jameson. Yes, sir. We are ready. Nizoni nodded, her small face determined. We can do it, she said firmly. Jameson nodded, a hint of a smile on his face. Good. Because living here isn't just about working. It's about growing, learning, and becoming someone who can face the world without fear. You two have already shown that you have some of what it takes, but the real test, the test that will change everything, is yet to come. The sisters didn't know what he meant, but they felt a mixture of curiosity and anticipation. They had already come so far, surviving hardship and danger, and now they were beginning to understand what it meant to belong. The trust Jameson was placing in them was rare, and it filled them with both pride and responsibility. That night, as they lay in their small beds, Ahioka and Nijoni talked quietly. Do you think he really trusts us? Nijoni asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ahioka thought for a moment. I think he does, in his own way, she said, but trust isn't given freely. We have to earn it every day. And we will. We'll work hard, we'll learn, and we'll show him that we belong. Nijoni smiled, feeling a warmth in her heart she hadn't felt in a long time. I'm glad we found him, she said softly.
Me too, Ahioka replied. He's giving us a chance. A real chance, and we can't waste it.
Outside, the ranch was quiet under the starry sky. The animals rested, the wind whispered through the grass, and the world seemed peaceful. For the sisters, this peace was new and fragile, but it was a start toward a life they had only dreamed of, a life where hope and trust could exist again. And for Jameson, watching them from the porch, there was a sense of cautious optimism. He had taken a risk, one he rarely took in his life, and he felt a strange but comforting hope that these two young girls might just change not only their own lives, but his as well. The next days would bring more work, more lessons, and more challenges, but the bond between the sisters and the slowly growing trust with Jameson was beginning to form a foundation for something stronger. something lasting. And little did they know, the moment that would truly change their lives forever was approaching. An opportunity that would test everything they had learned and show the true strength of their hearts. The next morning, the sun rose brighter than the day before, casting warm light across the wide plains. Ahioka and Nijoni woke early, eager to continue their work and prove themselves. After a quick breakfast, Jameson called them to the barn, a serious look on his face. "Today," he said, "you'll start learning more than just chores. You'll face challenges that will test your courage, patience, and teamwork. Everything you do here matters, and some lessons can't be learned in one day." Ahioka and Nijoni nodded, both feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. They had come so far already, but they understood that the ranch would demand more from them each day. This was not just about work. It was about trust, responsibility, and resilience. Jameson led them to the far side of the ranch, where a small herd of sheep grazed near a gentle stream. "These sheep require constant attention," he explained. "You must watch them closely. Some are timid, some are stubborn, and all of them depend on you. You'll work together to guide them, protect them, and make sure they are safe." "Can you handle that?" Ahioka exchanged a glance with Nijoni. "We can," she said confidently. Nijoni nodded, tightening her grip on the small rope Jameson had given her for guiding the sheep. The task began slowly. The sisters moved through the field, guiding the flock toward a fenced area near the barn. Some sheep strayed, some refused to move, and at first, the girls struggled to coordinate. Nijoni nearly tripped over a rock, causing a small panic among the sheep, but Ahioka quickly recovered, soothing both her sister and the animals with calm words and gentle gestures.
"You have to stay calm, Nijoni," Ahioka said quietly. "The sheep can feel fear and confusion."
"Lead with patience, not force." Nijoni took a deep breath and focused. Slowly, the flock began to follow her guidance, moving as a single unit. Ahioka smiled, proud of her sister. Together, they completed the task, guiding the sheep safely into the enclosure. Jameson watched from a distance, nodding silently. He did not often show emotion, but he felt a spark of pride. The sisters were learning quickly, not just how to handle animals, but how to work together and face challenges with determination. After a short break, Jameson handed them buckets and led them to the garden. The soil was rich but required careful tending. "The garden provides food for this ranch," he said. "If you neglect it, we lose more than crops. You'll plant, water, weed, and care for it daily. It's hard work, but it teaches responsibility and attention to detail." Ahioka and Nijoni dug into the soil, planting seeds carefully, making sure each one was properly spaced and covered. Their hands were scratched and dirty, but they didn't complain. The sun climbed higher and the work became hotter and more tiring. Yet the sisters persevered, knowing that every seed they planted was a step toward proving themselves. As they worked, Jameson watched quietly. Occasionally, he offered guidance, correcting their technique or showing them a quicker method. He didn't give them praise often, but the small nods of approval he gave felt like gold to the sisters. By late afternoon, the sisters were exhausted but satisfied. Their muscles ached, their hands were blistered, and their clothes were streaked with dirt. But they had completed every task. They had learned the rhythm of the ranch, the needs of the animals, and the patience required to care for the land. Jameson called them back to the porch. "Good work today," he said. "You're learning faster than I expected. But tomorrow will bring an even greater challenge. You'll have to prove your courage in a way you haven't yet. Are you ready for that?" Ahioka and Nijoni looked at each other, understanding the gravity of his words.
Yes, sir, Ahioka said firmly.
We are ready. Nijoni nodded, though a small tremor of nervousness ran through her. We'll do our best, she said softly.
That night, as they prepared for bed, the sisters talked quietly about the day. I'm tired, Ahioka, Nijoni admitted, but I feel proud. We did so much today.
Ah.
And tomorrow, we'll do even more. We have to keep going. Jameson believes in us, and we have to show him he's right. The next morning, the challenge Jameson had hinted at arrived. He led them to a small ridge overlooking a valley where a new calf had been born. The mother was protective, and the calf was weak. This is your test, Jameson said. You have to care for the calf, help the mother, and make sure both of them are safe. You can't rush or force anything. You must use patience, understanding, and teamwork. Do you think you can do it? Ahioka and Nijoni exchanged a determined glance. We can, Ahioka said. The work was difficult. The calf stumbled and fell, and the mother became restless, threatening to leave. Nijoni's hands shook as she tried to steady the young animal. Ahioka guided her sister, speaking softly and showing her how to calm both mother and calf. Slowly, with careful attention and gentle words, the calf gained strength and the mother relaxed. Hours passed, but the sisters did not give up. They learned to anticipate the animal's needs, noticing when the mother was hungry or when the calf needed warmth. They carried water, fed the mother, and made a small, safe shelter for the young calf. Every success built their confidence. Every challenge strengthened their resolve. By late afternoon, both mother and calf were safe, healthy, and calm. Ahioka and Nijoni sat in the shade, their bodies exhausted but their hearts full. They had faced a real test of patience and courage, and they had succeeded. Jameson approached them quietly.
I watched everything, he said. You didn't just handle the animals.
You worked together, stayed calm under pressure, and showed courage and responsibility. That's exactly what I hoped to see.
You're learning, and more importantly, you're proving that you belong here. Ahioka's eyes filled with tears.
Thank you, sir, she said. We couldn't have done it without each other. Nijoni leaned against her sister. I'm proud of us, Ahioka. We really did it. Jameson nodded. This is only the beginning. There will be more challenges ahead, and each one will test you in different ways. But remember this day. Remember how you worked together and how you didn't give up. That's what matters. That's what will carry you forward. As evening fell, the sisters returned to the house. Their muscles ached, and the dust of the day clung to their clothes, but their spirits were high. They had faced trials, overcome fears, and discovered strengths they didn't know they had. That night, as they lay in bed, Ahioka whispered to Nijoni, "We're getting stronger. We're learning. And soon, we'll be ready for anything." Nijoni nodded sleepily.
I feel it too, Ahioka.
I feel like we belong here, like this place is part of us now. Outside, the ranch was quiet. The animals settled and the wind moved softly through the grass. The stars twinkled overhead, shining on the sisters as they slept. They were no longer just two frightened girls who had begged for shelter. They were young women growing into their roles, earning trust, and proving that courage and perseverance could change their lives. Jameson stood on the porch, looking out at the fields. He had seen the determination in their eyes, the care in their actions, and the growing strength between them. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of hope, not just for them, but for the future of the ranch and the life they were building together. And so, as the night deepened and the world rested, the sisters continued their journey. Each day brought new lessons, new challenges, and new victories. Each step they took strengthened their bond, tested their courage, and prepared them for the moment that would change their fate forever. The sun rose slowly over the wide plains, spilling gold and pink light across the ranch. Ahioka and Nijoni woke early, their bodies sore but their hearts strong. Months had passed since they first arrived, frightened and exhausted, pleading for shelter. Now they were no longer just visitors. They were workers, learners, and slowly part of the ranch's life. Jameson called them to the porch after breakfast, his face serious but thoughtful. "Today," he said, "you'll take on responsibilities that will show me and everyone else on this ranch that you truly belong. This is not just about work. It's about trust, respect, and understanding everything it means to be part of this land." Ahioka and Nijoni exchanged a glance. They had faced countless tasks, challenges, and lessons, but something in Jameson's tone told them that this day would be different. It felt like a turning point, the day they would prove themselves fully. Jameson led them first to the barn, where the horses were waiting. "You've learned to care for them, but today you'll lead a small group of ranch hands and animals to the other pasture. It's a big task, and it requires coordination, patience, and leadership. Can you handle it?" Ahioka straightened her shoulders. "Yes, sir," she said firmly. Nijoni nodded beside her, determination shining in her eyes. Together they organized the herd, giving instructions calmly and clearly. Ahioka guided the older horses, while Nijoni kept the younger ones in line. There were small problems along the way, a horse that refused to move, a calf that wandered off, but the sisters worked together seamlessly. Ahioka's calm authority and Nijoni's careful attention allowed the herd to move steadily across the fields. Jameson watched silently, pride growing in his chest. The sisters had learned not only the skills needed for the ranch, but also the leadership, patience, and courage required to succeed. He could see that they had grown far beyond the frightened girls who had first knocked at his door. After the herd was settled in the new pasture, Jameson led the sisters to the garden and fields. "You've tended to the animals, but the land is just as important. Today, you'll manage planting, watering, and harvesting. It's a big responsibility, and everything depends on your careful attention." Ahioka and Nijoni worked tirelessly. They moved through the rows of crops with precision, checking each plant, watering where needed, and carefully harvesting the ripest fruits and vegetables. The work was exhausting, but every plant they cared for flourished under their hands. By late afternoon, the garden looked healthier and more organized than it had in months. Jameson approached them, his face breaking into a rare smile. "You've done well today. Not just the work, but the way you handled it. You've shown patience, responsibility, and leadership. These qualities are worth more than any amount of strength or speed. You've earned my trust." Ahioka and Nijoni exchanged a glance, their hearts swelling with pride and relief. Months of hard work, learning, and perseverance had brought them to this moment. The fear and uncertainty that had followed them since their village was destroyed felt like a distant memory. They had proven themselves, not only to Jameson, but to themselves. The sisters spent the evening tending to smaller tasks, helping Jameson repair fences and feed the animals. Every action was met with quiet approval, and for the first time, they felt a true sense of belonging. They were no longer outsiders. They were part of the ranch family, valued and trusted. As the sky turned orange and pink with the setting sun, Jameson called them to the porch once more. He sat down in his old chair, gesturing for them to join him. "Girls," he said, his voice gentle, I've seen everything you've done. You faced challenges, worked hard, and shown courage and patience. You've proven that you belong here, not just on this ranch, but in life. From the moment you first came to me begging for shelter, I knew there was something special about you. And now I can say with certainty that you've earned your place. Ahioka felt tears prick her eyes. She had never imagined hearing words like that. Thank you, sir, she said softly. We will continue to do our best, we promise. Nijoni hugged her sister, her face glowing.
I'm so happy.
We really did it. Jameson smiled, watching the sisters. You did more than survive, he said. You've grown, learned, and become strong in ways that matter. This ranch is part of your new home now. You're part of the family. The sisters felt a warmth in their hearts that they had not felt in months. The fear, the exhaustion, and the uncertainty of their past had been replaced by hope, pride, and belonging. They had worked hard, faced challenges, and proved themselves. Their lives, once filled with danger and despair, were now full of promise. That night, after finishing their chores and settling into their small room, Ahioka and Nijoni sat by the window, looking out at the stars. The ranch was quiet, the animals resting, and the wind whispered softly through the grass. I can't believe how far we've come, Nijoni said, her voice filled with wonder. It feels like another life, before we came here. Ahioka nodded. Yes, we've faced so much, but we kept going. And now we have a chance to live, to grow, and to belong. We have a home, and people who care for us. Nijoni leaned against her sister. I feel safe for the first time in a long time. I feel like we can face anything now. Ahioka smiled softly. Yes, Nijoni, we can. And together, we'll keep growing stronger. The next morning, the sisters awoke to the sounds of the ranch alive again. Birds chirped, animals stirred, and the soft light of dawn bathed the fields in gold. Ahioka and Nijoni prepared for another day, but this time, their work was different. They moved with confidence, knowledge, and pride. Every step was purposeful, every action measured and thoughtful. They were no longer just learning. They were teaching themselves how to thrive, to belong, and to be trusted. Jameson watched from the porch, a quiet satisfaction in his eyes. He had taken a risk when he first allowed them to stay. He had seen courage, resilience, and heart where others might have seen only fear and desperation. And now that risk had been rewarded. The sisters were no longer dependent on his mercy. They had earned their place, and in doing so they had changed his life as well. Weeks turned into months, and the sisters continued to grow in skill, confidence, and wisdom. They learned to handle difficult tasks, solve problems creatively, and support each other through challenges. The ranch, once a place of hard labor and strict rules, became a home filled with trust, respect, and quiet joy. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and painted the sky in deep oranges and purples, Jameson called the sisters to the porch. He handed them each a small token, a silver pendant shaped like a leaf. For your courage, your work, and your heart, he said. A reminder that you've earned your place, not just on this ranch, but in life. You've changed your fate, and you've changed mine as well. Ahioka and Nijoni held the pendants close, feeling the weight of the moment. Tears filled their eyes as they looked at Jameson. Thank you, sir, Ahioka whispered. We will honor this gift, and we will continue to do our best. Nijoni nodded, her voice soft but full of emotion. We will never forget what you've done for us. You gave us hope when we had none. Jameson smiled, a rare warmth in his expression. You earned it, girls, not because of me, but because of your courage, your heart, and your determination. You've shown that even in the hardest times, hope, hard work, and trust can change everything. That night the sisters lay in their beds, the pendants clutched tightly in their hands. The stars shone brightly outside their window, a silent witness to their journey. From desperate fugitives to trusted members of the ranch, their lives had been transformed. They had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty. And now they had a future filled with promise, safety, and belonging. Ahioka whispered to Nijoni as they drifted to sleep. We did it, Nijoni. We really did it. Our life has changed forever. Nijoni smiled sleepily. Yes, Ahioka, and it's just the beginning. Outside, the ranch lay calm under the starlit sky, the animals resting, the fields quiet, and the wind moving softly through the grass. It was a peaceful night, a night of endings and beginnings. The sisters had survived, grown, and proven themselves.